Welcome back to the latest episode of the CGA Tour podcast. As always, here I'm your host, Calvin Glen Alexander. And tonight I'm rejoined again here by Jay. He's rooting on the SGA for MVP as well. If you're not watching this on YouTube, you don't get the subtle inside jokes here, you see, in the captions. But Jay, how's it going?
How's it going? Just enjoying just some college basketball, and high school basketball started back up too. So can't complain.
I got to say, I'm enjoying an Oklahoma State win in basketball. Beat the crap out of Tulsa the other night in Oklahoma City amongst a couple hundred people. So it was a great deal.
OU is actually one of 6 undefeated teams in college right now. So
don't love hearing that because Oklahoma State's not been playing great. So not necessarily looking forward to Bedlam today, but maybe I will by the time it comes around. We got a little time still, I think. I hope. Well, with that being said here, we're going to talk a little about the NBA in-season tournament because it just wrapped up this past weekend, and talk a little bit NFL as well here. So, start off, NBA in-season tournament. The Pacers ended up getting all the way to the finals, but they played LeBron James and those LA Lakers, which if we had Kenny on, I'm sure he'd have something to say about LeBron. But since we don't, what do you think about the tournament? What do you think about LeBron and AD, and they're going to hang a banner? What was your thoughts?
I love the tournament. I actually got to go to some of the OKC games during the tournament, and I think it's great. Honestly, it's one of my favorite things they added. I think Adam Silver has always added things the longer his career is going as commissioner. Like even I think it was 2 years ago, we had the best All-Star games we ever had, and I just think he's doing a great job. And this addition also makes sense.
Yeah, I loved it too. It's something new, different. It doesn't hurt the product of the NBA whatsoever. It only helps it, and I think it helps it out a ton. Like all of a sudden, am I going to watch a Thursday night football game between the Patriots and Steelers, or am I going to watch an NBA in-season tournament? And it was like, oh, I'm watching an in-season tournament easily. Like I don't care about Mac Jones playing Mitch Trubisky. And you know what? Maybe if the NFL had a different matchup, of course it was like, any of the other playoff hopeful teams, I'd probably be watching it. But that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of enjoyable. That the courts, I think we could chill out on the court colors just a little bit. Like, and I'm not saying I'm saying kind of on the intensity of the colors, because there's quite a few times where I would watch, and you've already got jerseys which are very brightly colored. And then all of a sudden you've got like these contrasting other colors for like the championship court, which is just blue and red no matter what. It's NBA colors. And it's cool, but like I'm nitpicking, I don't know. I don't know much else they could improve on. Do you have any ideas on what they could improve really here?
I mean, I think they hit the nail on the head, honestly. I really do. I really enjoyed it. Especially for the first year. I'm sure there's going to be more improvements and like small tweaks. I think having it in Vegas was probably the best idea because, that's your mecca for sports is Vegas. So I'm sure it's like a home advantage, it's a little closer to LA and whatnot. But like, maybe just more incentives, the Pacers, they get paid, some of the guys aren't on big LA contracts like the other guys. Like I think they should add more incentives. And honestly, I think the winner of the in-season playoff should automatically have a buy-in to the playoffs at the end of the season. Like, so no matter what, they get like to play in position. It's the highest they can go.
So
right, so play in. So and then if they win more, they move up in the playoffs. But if they're like in a lower tier, like maybe like don't make it to the playoffs, they get a playoff berth into the play-in.
Well, so let me ask you this, because I thought of that as well too. But hypothetically, let's say the Memphis Grizzlies make it somehow into the tournament. They win the whole tournament. For example, they've got Ja. I mean, it could be any team really. I mean, let's say, for example, the Lakers win the whole thing right now as is, and this counts, right? And then LeBron James goes down with an injury to end the season like tomorrow. And then you've got AD like banged up. Should they still have to like win a certain amount of games, be like over 500, or should there be something else? Just because for them, like maybe, the Grizzlies scenario I was coming up with is like, okay, what if the Grizzlies have, basically all that type of stuff. They get there and then like today couple star players go down throughout the rest of the season. All of a sudden they're trying to tank, but like they almost can't tank because they got a guaranteed playoff spot. Like what would you do in that scenario?
So, I mean, that's why I say it's into play in, not into the playoffs. So it's like they're not like ranked 9 automatic. It's to play in. Like I think when Pat Bev was at the Timberwolves and they won the play in, he was throwing his jersey on the So that's where I would put the winner of the end season. Like, yeah, they may not do well throughout the season, but since they won so early in the season tournament, like they have a chance to get into the playoffs because they've shown they have won a playoff setting. I think they should be able to do, work their way through the playoffs.
Yeah, and then playing game. I mean, it's one game. Yeah, I mean, if you're the 10th seed, it is one game. So I'm with you there. Now it could be 2 or 7, just keep going. But yeah, I like it there for sure. The other thing I was thinking about too is just for Vegas, like we're Oklahoma City Thunder fans getting a direct flight to Las Vegas. I know they exist, but we're not driving. It's just one of those things where you've got such a heavy LA Lakers market. It was clear seeing the 2 different games on third. The Bucks Pacers was not as highly attended or was well attended as later on game. Lakers Pelicans, because there's just so many more Lakers fans. Also could be due to timing. I know one was kind of during the day, Pacific time, especially versus later in the day. But let's say they decide next year we're going to move the tournament. Where else in the U.S. should they have the tournament if it's not in Vegas?
So I was kind of looking, and I think 2 places really kind of like made sense, and that would be like Dallas or Miami.
Okay.
So Dallas is more in your middle, kind of away from everybody other than Dallas fans and Texas fans. And then you have Miami, which is another, it's just a tropical place. And a lot of people like going to Miami. So that's another hot zone.
I like it a lot too. I took it the direction of, like Vegas doesn't have an NBA team. So what if other cities don't have NBA? And those would be, to me, like expansion type cities, So would Seattle, like if they have the in-season tournament, is it just going to be packed every single night? Now, granted, there were only, I think, 3 games in the season tournament played in Vegas, if I have that right. Maybe 5, but I think there's 3. I think it's the Thursday and Saturday. So, can they pack all of them? Vegas clearly did back real well, but they also have NBA Summer League going. So I think enough people know, maybe there, Seattle, or even like Louisville, Kentucky, which has, for Kentucky basketball, they have a massive NBA size arena. I think it seats like 18,000 people or something. So that's where I was taking it here a little bit as well too.
Yeah, and you can never go wrong with Madison Square Garden in New York. So
MSG, that would be Eventually they'll play maybe everywhere to start out, for at least if it keeps going for a bunch of years, which I think it will. How do you think this win affects LeBron's legacy, AD's legacy? Does this make it where, I've never asked you like what your ranking is of like MJ, LeBron, Kobe, Wilt, like what your like the rankings of the greats, Bill Russell, etc. But like, does this put LeBron on another like level up for you? Or you respect him a little bit more? Or does this really change much?
Not really. I think LeBron is a great player. Not my greatest, but he is the greatest to some people, and that's, understandable. He's the greatest basketball player I've ever seen in my, since I've been alive. And I've got to see more of him. I've got to see him grow and play for different teams, win championships. He's a great player. I will not deny it. I think, he just wins. He finds a way to win. He's won with, the Cavs. He's won with the LA. He's won with Miami. He's just a winner. So it doesn't surprise me that they won the in-season tournament the way they did.
Yeah, I like the Lakers a lot, but I almost wish they had gone up against the Bucks or just another team that coming into it I would have expected them to play. Nothing. I don't want to speak badly against the Pacers. Right now, the Pacers are playing incredibly well. And actually, another question I got for you here in a second is who should they trade for to make them a real, legitimate contender? But if Tyrese Haliburton keeps playing this way, he could be NBA All First Team. I mean, he's playing that good. But I don't think of the Pacers when I think about a matchup that the Lakers would not win. Going into that, I don't know what the betting line was. Not exactly sure. Don't remember it. But that being said, it's almost as though oh, okay, yeah, they're playing up against, I mean, the Kings or just a nut, or maybe even the Thunder, with the new core or whatever. It just isn't a team that has been together a while and been as respected. So I don't devalue the Lakers like cup championship win from that, but the fact they're hanging a banner and LeBron was really into it is awesome for the league. Do you think it helps a lot? I just don't. Maybe next year, if like the Lakers don't win it and stuff like that, and then I'll kind of be able to put it more in perspective of, okay, what is this? Just because I didn't see the Pacers coming out of nowhere, and the Pacers had it where basically I think in a week stretch they lost to the Bucks or the Celtics, and they played them again later on that week for a tournament game, and they won that one. So it was like that's where it kind of gets hard for me. It's like, all right, you don't rest guys on purpose, but are you trying that much harder? Are you not resting guys? You playing them certain minutes longer or whatever because it's a tournament versus non.
See, I felt like some of the coaches treated it as like a playoff run because like you saw certain minutes and you saw different defensive schemes. Them trying a little bit harder and trying new things. I enjoyed it, so like I kind of geeked out on it a little bit.
Yeah, no, I did too. It was a lot of fun. The biggest takeaway though was the Tyrese Haliburton is just he's playing out of his mind. I mean, if you go back to that draft, it's a weird COVID-ish era draft where Haliburton goes after the 10th pick. He goes after Jalen Smith, who's now weirdly enough his teammate, but was not drafted to the Pacers, of course. And you've got a bunch of other just odd deals with, Killian Hayes for the Pistons hasn't worked out yet whatsoever. And there's a lot of high upside on him. But then, of course, it's the draft where you've got Anthony Edwards, James Wiseman, and then LaMelo Ball. And I'd say the best player out of the draft so far, like if I had to say best player today, I'd say it's Haliburton, but it's either Haliburton or Edwards, right? I mean, is there somebody else you're thinking of?
Well, I don't think we got the Melo because of the injury. I think he would be up there with him. I think the, Hornets would be a little bit more of a talk because I think Melo's a great player. But at the same time, I think Haliburton has really stepped into his role as a superstar or even a star. It's kind of early to say superstar, but as a star in Pacers.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's crazy because at Iowa State I knew he was good, but I never thought he'd be this.
Right. Like when he was at the Kings with Fox and everything, like they made kind of a good duo, but I didn't expect him when he got traded to be thought he would just be like a journeyman throughout the league, run the point and call it good. But he's just really shown his elite status this past few months, and it's been fun to watch.
Yeah, now I just gotta figure out how we can get him a running mate. I mean, who's the other guy? Do the Pacers end up finally trading away after all these years, Miles Turner? Do you think something else happens where they trade in for another kind of role player-ish guy? What would you do if you're the Pacers and trying to make him a legit contender there?
So if I'm doing contender, they need size. It showed against the LA Lakers. They just need a little bit of size. So I wouldn't be surprised if they went out for a Siakam from Toronto, or even I can't remember his other big man running the OG.
OG Anunoby.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they go after him. Just someone that gives them a little bit of length. And then also, you can look at your 4 and 3 role, and you can be like, oh, we can use a defender and someone like a 3-and-D type player like Jeremy Grant.
Man, yeah. I would love to see Jeremy Grant, OG Anunoby, or Siakam, honestly, if Siakam can make a couple more threes. He probably could with a little bit better spacing anyways. And that for me would solidify the Pacers as a legitimate player. I don't know about, okay, you got to go ahead and play the Bucks or the Sixers, but, versus the Heat, I think they'd contend. Versus the Knicks, I know they'd contend. And the Cavs, for sure, they already, I don't know how to justify in-season tournament rankings. Does that now mean that they're the best in the East? I still don't think they're the best in the East, even after that. But would be a lot of fun, and I do think that'd be a lot better than Obi Toppin, who's honestly played really well this year so far, but he's just not that guy. He was he traded or signed as a free agent this offseason with the Pacers? So he wasn't that valuable of a guy going to the Pacers. I kind of know how he's valued in the NBA is probably how we should be valuing him right now too, unless he makes another step. Is there is there a Pacers ranking you've got going of all right, Pacers are now top 5 your power rankings, or what does the power rankings look like right now? Kind of updating through the season.
They're still out just because they showed, like I think they're the fastest team in the NBA, getting, scoring wise, but they don't play defense. They win games off of offense. Like, as much as I love the offensive minded coaches and everything, they've got to find someone that can stop star players. So, like, honestly, they're out of my top 5 right now, even though they made it to the, finals of the in-season tournament.
Yeah, I'm looking through NBA.com's power rankings as well, and I think I'm going to get all the way to the 10th team. Yep, and they are 10th. So last week they were 13th. This week, it's the NBA does this every week on the same day. It's on the 11th of December this week, whenever you're hearing this. And yeah, they have the Pacers at 10th. So I guess with that being said, let's do an updated NBA power rankings, though, right?
Yeah.
Who do you got?
I'm eating crow on this one. I said the Timberwolves were going to fall off kind of, and they really haven't. I have the Celtics and the Timberwolves at my 1 and 2. I think Celtics, I think they'll figure some things out the later this season will go. So they're still there. Timberwolves, they just been playing great. Rudy Gobert and Cat, together, I didn't think would work after the first season watching them, and now they're really playing well together. So I can't really say anything. They're my number 2 team, and then number 3 is my Thunder. 2 in the West right now, and they look good. They're playing well together. Great defense. It's fun watching them play defense. Every night, you can bet on like 6 steals in a quarter. Like, it's just fun to watch. Surprising enough, Orlando Magic, number 4.
Okay. Magic are making it up there. Yeah. All right.
So this is their second win streak they're on right now. They went on a really good early season, like beginning of the season run where they did well, and now they're on a second one. Cole Anthony's, just being a menace out there playing basketball, and I just love watching Cole Anthony. I watched him, in college. I enjoyed him. So, and then I think Milwaukee. I think Giannis and Dame will mesh together well. They're building on it. You can kind of tell. Dame, I think him stepping down from being the only scorer to now being a second option and third option has been kind of throw him off his game. So I think the longer they stay together, the better they'll be, and that's why they're my number 5. And then outside my 5 is Denver and Pacers. Like, they're my 6 and 7. Like, they can honestly jump in and out. I think Pacers, like I said, great offense. I love their offense. I love watching their offense. They can even cut to people like after they score because they're already pushing the ball down so fast. And then Denver's, I think they're kind of taking their foot off the gas a little bit, and I think they'll revamp, around the All-Star weekend.
All right. I like it a lot. I have Denver in my top 5. In fact, the probably biggest difference between us is just where we have the Timberwolves. To me, they're still the Timber Pups at the end of the day. Like, they've lost 4 games this year. That's nothing. I mean, you've got teams who have lost 8 and are probably in the top 5 of the power rankings here for me. But you've got Anthony Edwards, who's got a hip injury. The Timberwolves have still won 6 straight, and they've won 16 of their last 18. But I guess I know Minnesota has the best record in the league, but I just don't value a ton of their wins. Their last 4 wins have come against Utah, Charlotte, San Antonio, and Memphis. And in 2 of those 4 games, the Timberwolves were trailing in the fourth quarter. So, yes, they got it out. Yes, they went back and won. But, is this much more of a, hey, it's Utah and Charlotte, San Antonio, Memphis? Or is this the Timberwolves going, hey, everyone sees us. Everyone's got a bullseye on our back because they want to take us down as top record in the league, and we're playing really tough competition. We're playing every guy's on their best night because they're trying to take us down. And I just have a hard time understanding which is which, which is the scenario here that we really should be going with as fans. So that's why I have at least the Timberwolves at 3. And I've got the Celtics at 1. And the Celtics are just incredible. They're undefeated at home. In fact, on last year, they're still undefeated at home. they would be like the most surefire number one overall seed, and I'd be super, super high on them if they had made it to the postseason tournament and beat the Pacers. But they end up not. And you know, Porzingis is going to play in the lineup, kind of like we were saying with the Bucks a little bit too. But that's why also I have the Bucks at 2. Like, Bucks have been playing extremely well, are really good. They're going to keep figuring it out more and more and more. And I feel like the Bucks actually losing the game to the Pacers will almost be enough fire just to really light it underneath them and be like, all right, you saw some weird whole, like, Giannis scored 64 last night. Not necessarily going to do it because I don't even really understand what happened, but this whole, like, Giannis trying to get the game ball last night. He doesn't think he got it, but he did, but whatever. So all this kind of weird stuff to me just means that the Bucks really care. They're really, really caring in December, the middle of December, haven't hit Christmas yet. And so I've got the Bucks there too. The Celtics, like, I think they're only going to get better and better throughout the season, and they're already 16-5. And then I already talked about the Timberwolves for a little bit here at 3. Seems like Rudy Gobert is playing a lot better. He's plus 56, plus minus for the last 2 games. And they just have a ton of size in that lineup that's super hard to play against. I mean, there's not a lot of teams who are going to match up real well against them. Even when it comes down to the Nuggets, like, okay, you got Aaron Gordon guarding one of the 2 guys here, or you have, you know, and you have Jokic who has to basically guard Rudy Gobert or, you know, Karl Anthony Towns and vice versa. And right now the Wolves are really locked in. So leave them at 3, where it is. At 4, I almost have the Thunder, but instead I have to give the Lakers a lot of credit here. Lakers are playing really well. They just won the cup. It seems like they have a switch that they can just flip, where really I think the Lakers are like the team to me where if they get the 4th seed in the playoffs or the 6th seed in the playoffs, maybe even the 8th seed, they'll still be just as tough, kind of like they were last year of getting out, because LeBron's been doing this so long, AD's been doing this so long, and the rest of the guys are basically making sure that they're healthy enough. You know, AD and LeBron don't have to play every minute of every single game. But with that being said, LeBron's been playing an incredible level. He's got his, I want to say, career best percentage from 3 right now going.
At 39 years old.
And yeah, he's able to keep doing it at 39. So at this point, you got to prove it for me to believe it if you're the Timberwolves, but it's the other way for the Lakers and LeBron. Like, must have to see something just crazy bad happen for me to start disrespecting you, because once you do something for 20 plus years, it becomes like the whole, you know, I was saying this about Tom Brady towards the end of his run as well too. It's almost like, okay, it's been true for so long. You've been good for so long. Now I can't doubt you. You know, I mean, right. It takes so long to build that up, but I think this is kind of going to be like my big Warriors thing at the end of the day would be like, the Warriors, are they kind of declining? Because it looks like it's falling apart at the seams, but you also just don't, they won the championship 2 years ago. Like, you just don't disrespect him. But with LeBron, no disrespect at all. He's playing incredible. He's playing so many minutes every single game. He really did want to win the NBA Cup. And to me, that's like, all right, you know what? If they care that much, they got to be ranked 4th in the power rankings.
That's fair.
And then 5th, going with OKC. Going with the Thunder, not just because the arena vote passed, but because also Chet Holmgren and the OKC Thunder are finding a way to beat the Warriors in what is an incredible fashion. Draymond fouls Chet on shooting a 3 the other night, and Chet knocks down all 3 to go to overtime. Earlier on in the season, Chet hit a 3 to send the Warriors game to overtime. And, I mean, besides that, like, Shea's over 9% for the 2nd straight season from the field goal line. Chet is 100% from the charity stripe on Friday. And then Thunder playing a really, really good defense. I mean, when you force the Warriors to commit almost 30 turnovers to commit 29 the other night, like, that's just incredible ball. And yeah, I know I'm reading off some stats and going through them that way. And I wish that the Thunder were better at just rebounding overall, because they're kind of last in the league.
Yeah, I think they make up for it with their defense and getting steals. But, like, there's times where I'm watching 4 or 5 offensive rebounds against the OKC Thunder. I was like, oh, please, just get a rebound, please.
Yeah, it's little pickup hoops when I'm, you know, trying to pick up a rebound and I'm the tallest guy out there. Like, it just isn't going to happen all the time. And that's what I feel like the Thunder too. I feel like Chet gets bodied under the rim a little bit, just as a thinner guy. And then if the Thunder don't have Chet on the floor, it's not necessarily truly slim pickings, because a lot of these guys are big, but you almost have to have Jay with a wide Williams, because he's just a thick dude you have to go through. But at the same point, he's 6'9", and and you've got some of these matchups against Western Conference teams. You've got Timberwolves, Lakers, heck, even the Spurs. I mean, they've got Zach Collins and Wembanyama. So the Thunder got to find a little bit more on that end of it, but I've got them at 5. And I do want to ask you here. Draymond has not been playing great lately. Of course, he did foul Chet with 7.7 seconds left in regulation on Friday night for Chet to make all 3 free throws sent to overtime. And was it 2 nights ago? I think we were recording this on Thursday, the 14th, but I think it was 2 nights ago. Draymond Green just slaps Yusuf Nurkic in the face for what seems out of just complete nowhere and no explanation whatsoever. And I don't believe Draymond's explanation either. So what are your thoughts here? Is the NBA doing the right thing by suspending him indefinitely?
Yeah. So I think that indefinitely should definitely be looked at, because 2 months, or was it a month ago, he was choking out Gobert.
Yeah.
He didn't just a little slap on the wrist, and we turn it around and here he is, throwing a haymaker Mike Tyson style at Nurkic. It's not. I just don't understand his thought process out there. Yeah, you get frustrated when someone's grabbing on your jersey and, holding you and everything, but you don't slap around, you slap down at their hands. That's something, you use as a basketball player. If someone's holding your jersey, you're allowed to, make contact and push them away or push them off, their hand, not a haymaker to the face. It's just a little, and I'm a Draymond hater, so this is probably coming out of spite, but I think the indefinitely suspension should stay for a while.
Yeah, I've got no problem with the indefinite suspension. If I answer my own question. And also, I don't get Draymond Green's playing style as a whole. I understand he's an incredible passer, he can set screens. But to me, he's been the one guy since he entered the league where he is in the perfect situation. If he goes anywhere else, he is just not the same. I mean, can you imagine Draymond Green right now playing on this OKC Thunder team at his peak, at peak of his powers, peak athleticism, everything? He would be good. He would be good, but he would not be the guy. He would not be all-star caliber. He wouldn't be doing what he's doing the Warriors. He had to play for a team that needed 2 guys, that had 2 guys who were just elite 3-point specialists, where he didn't really have to space the court. And when he did space the court, he would just hit just enough to basically kill somebody on those nights. He's part of a team that went 73-9. He's part of a team who's won multiple championships. But at the same point, he's also got so many highlights now. This is like the 40th podcast I made the joke on, where you can make Draymond highlights just out of non-basketball plays. There's enough out there. There's not just the Steven Adams, kicking the nuts. There's also kicking the Kiwis. There's also the plenty of other, Draymond Green, just stomping on Sabonis' chest. I know there's 7 we're forgetting about. 2, where indefinite's the correct way to go about it if I'm the league. And also, you got to do something to kind of get him out of the news for a little bit. If this is a news-related thing, then all right, you got to just push it out where it's not attention, and also the media kind of stops thinking about it for a little bit. It's not like a renowned thing. Maybe it's a 10-game suspension. Maybe it's a 15, maybe it's a 20. I don't think it should go too terribly far, but also that's because at the end of the day, he just punched him out of nowhere. It's kind of weird, because to me, I don't know where this is coming from. Do we think Nurkic was saying some crap? Do we, was this instigated in any way? It just seems like this wasn't. So don't suspend him for forever, but do suspend him for a good amount of games, right, where it gets out of the media and out of the kind of noise, that everyone talks about, and asks a bunch of other Warriors players and fans, whatever, about it.
I've got a question for you here. If you think PJ Tucker was in the same spot as Draymond Green, do you think we would have the same discussion as PJ Tucker being one of the greats?
No, I really don't. No,
you think Draymond's better than PJ Tucker?
Not by anything besides. If you're asking the question, and I'm just not, I think you're asking a different way than I'm understanding it. If you just switch, if you just switch them, then yeah. I think I took that question the wrong way. I think if you switch them, I think we're talking about PJ Tucker as Hall of Fame era guy, no brainer. You know,
defensive.
yeah, team player. You know, I mean, all the type of stuff here. And also, I think there'd be a lot more. Oh, Draymond's such a great player and all type of stuff. If he hadn't punched straight in, Jordan Poole, if he hasn't done like stuff to his own team, like, okay, why did Kevin Durant not re-up with the Warriors? Why did he go to the Nets? Well, supposedly because he got in an argument with Draymond. And because Draymond started calling him out on, hey, you're not coming back, we all know it. And regardless if Draymond knew KD had made up his mind before that or not, Draymond's definitely the one who brought it out in the media, made it a big situation, and it was looming over the Warriors' heads that whole season. I mean, he made it where it was an issue. So, as a Thunder fan, of course I don't like Draymond Green. In fact, I wrote an article when I used to write for a blog site that I found with a buddy, but it was like how not to be an NBA role model. I started getting like hits a bunch on Reddit, and then people were finding me, and then immediately took it down because basically it was like how not to be an NBA role model. But I wrote that in 2016. Like that was after I remember writing that out as not necessarily completely out of spite because Draymond had just taken Steven Adams out for a game or two, and that was what spurred the article. But of course, that means that was the series of the Warriors won. And Klay Thompson was lights out, hit 11 threes in a game. Like, wish that had gone differently, of course. Heartbroken still to this day, clearly. I remember way too much about the details of it to not be heartbroken. But with all that being said, there is oh my gosh, Draymond Green, how much worse can it get before some serious action has to take place besides the indefinite suspensions? You know what I mean? Is there hey, you've got to be just ruled out for 50 games. Like the Warriors won't see you. They've got to find a way. Because if I'm the Warriors, if I'm a Warriors fan, do you love Draymond Green? Like, is he one of the best players on your team right now? Is he like a huge like? But let me ask you this way: is he the guy you love because he's kind of like Trae Young when he was playing for like OU or now for the Hawks or whatever, where he is like such an energy guy. He plays with such determination where like no matter what you play against him, you just hate him because you're like, dude, this guy this guy just he just sucks, right? Or
it's like I feel like his comparison is Baker Mayfield. If you love your team, you love Baker Mayfield if he's on your team. If you don't like Baker Mayfield, it's because he's done something to your team or he's made actions or done something. And I think that's how Draymond is. I think if you're a Warriors fan, you love him. You think he's one of the best power forwards of all time, top 3, not even close. Outside of Warrior fans, I don't see anybody really enjoying Draymond other than acknowledging he did his role a phenomenal job, during a dynasty. Like you have to realize, he did his role. He played well, during the finals. He had defensive stops and everything, yada, yada, whatever. But if he is not on your team, I think most people dislike him. If he's on your team, you love him.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because I wonder what it is like right now. How is the opinion of Draymond changing in Warriors fandom? Is this now a guy where, man, if Jonathan Kuminga could just be a little bit better, right? Like if you could just get a couple of these guys who are a little bit underneath, Bob Myers left before the start of the season as the Warriors GM. And you know what? That's just kind of not necessarily, he wasn't great with the Warriors, like Bob Myers at the end there. Now he was great with the Warriors for so long. He picked Steph Curry, he picked Klay Thompson, he picked Draymond, he picked these guys like that just won championships, and he bet on, and it all worked out amazingly well for Bob Myers. But at the end, we're talking about a couple different guys where, Jonathan Kuminga picked one before Giddey. James Wiseman picked one before LaMelo Ball and, Halliburton and, however many down the line keep going, et cetera, right? So if you're a Warriors fan, are you just going, man, I wish we had hit on some of these draft picks now that Draymond's just going off the rails?
I think it's also Steve Kerr's fault. I think it's time for him to let some of the younger guys play more instead of just relying on your Steph and Klay. Because Klay's not playing well these past few games. And it's really shown. I think you need to maybe start thinking, does Klay need to start coming off the bench?
Yeah.
Do we start looking, start handing over the reins to the younger guys so maybe we can start again? And I'm not saying they're going to go straight you know, into the dump of, tanking, but, you still have Stephen Clay at any time can give you 10 threes. So it's hard to say. I really honestly think the younger guys should start stepping up more and to get more playing time, especially Draymond being gone. I think it'd be a good time for him too.
I do as well. And to cap off the whole Draymond thing, the one thing to me and I had to look it up to make sure, is that the Warriors still only lost the game by 3 the other night to the Suns. Like Draymond you have one of your star players, whatever Draymond is, he's definitely been a star player guy. He definitely holds himself in that category, so I'll give it to him for sure. But the Warriors scored 116. They lost by 3 against the Suns, who, I know they didn't have Bradley Beal back, and the Suns are not like the greatest thing in the entire world, but the Suns are really, really good. Like, I picked them to make the playoffs for sure, and you lost to a playoff team without Draymond, with him getting kicked out during the game by only 3. And heck, maybe it fired up the Warriors and, kept them in it, but the bench for the Warriors scored 80 in that game. Like that, there's a couple of things the Warriors really have going for them that, man, if Draymond was just, I'm happy he's playing like a goofball, because it makes me happy to be like, all right, everyone else is seeing what I've been seeing for years. But at the same point, man, the Warriors could be pretty good still if Draymond could figure it out. If Andrew Wiggins could also just play up a little bit better, and not be, basically, he seems like he's coming back down to where he was before. For Timberwolves earlier on in his career. And it seems like Wiggins may be coming back down to that a little bit. But if he can get back to where he was, then, the Warriors will always be a force to be reckoned with. Not rolling him out yet. We're not, right. We're 20 plus games in the season. Maybe when we get 40, then I'll start talking about some legitimate things. But that being said, NFL, we got Thursday Night Football on tonight. We've got an elite matchup here of Easton Stick, North Dakota State quarterback, went 49-3 against Aiden O'Connell for the Raiders, and I have no idea where he went to college. I looked up all the Easton Stick stuff right before we recorded because I want to know some stats here. But besides picking the Chargers-Raiders on a Thursday night game of who's going to win 3-0, I'll ask you instead here. NFL, you've got 3 10-3 teams right, or 4 10-3 teams right now. You almost had more with the Dolphins if they had pulled it off on Monday, but they didn't. So, which 10-3 team would you pick to win it all? Cowboys, Ravens, Eagles, or the Niners?
The 49ers just look so good. I grew up a Dallas Cowboy fan. My dad's favorite player was Roy Williams from Oklahoma that went to Dallas. So I grew up watching early 2000s Dallas and kind of stuck with me. But the 49ers, man, just looks so good. Brock Purdy looks good. Like, I would never guess, like, the kid from Iowa State that, would be putting these numbers up in the NFL. Like, he just looks good. Their 49ers defense look amazing. You can't really like hate on that. They just, hold the Eagles to what was it, 18, 21 points? I can't remember.
Yeah.
But they just look good. They look dominant. They look like the team to beat in the playoff run. So I won't be surprised if they don't make it all the way and win it all.
All right. Well, I think it is the Niners right now who look the best, but I'm going to say I still think the Ravens are just a little bit better. I think if you're just saying, I think at the end of the day, if you're saying, okay, ball in their hands, final drive, 2 minutes left on the clock, I'm going to choose Lamar Jackson right now over Brock Purdy. And that's basically because, I've seen those Iowa State games a bunch. And there's not like a bunch of other stuff behind that. I mean, Kyle Shanahan has put Brock Purdy in an amazing situation. And Brock Purdy, honestly, he's playing incredibly well. Like, I'm not trying to knock him whatsoever. Just and I may be talking about 2 quarterbacks who at the end of this year could be saying both of them are MVPs, if Lamar winning it earlier on and Purdy winning it this year. But I just like the Ravens a little bit more right now. Ravens seem like defensively they can play pretty good. Now, granted, they did need a walk-off overtime touchdown punt return from Tylan Wallace, Oklahoma State guy, but to beat the Rams, who may or may not make the playoffs, with that being said, the Niners, when they did have that 3-game skid, it was like, all right, is this something that could just pop up in the playoffs? Is this something that could be bad? Then looking more into it, it's like, all right, well, those were the games they missed Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel. So the Niners, to me, it's very, if they're healthy, then it's them. But if they're not healthy, they get banged up, and they kind of have any injury to any one of these star players they have, which some of these guys get injured more than anyone would want them to, of course. Then I'm going Ravens. And I think it'd be there. What did you think? I mean, growing up as a Cowboys fan, what did you think about the Cowboys-Eagles game though the other night? Are you now a big Brandon Aubrey fan?
I mean, he kind of reminds me of Jason Witten a little bit, you know.
Yeah. Jake Ferguson, the tight end.
Yeah. The tight end. He kind of reminds me of Jason Witten, and that's what I was telling my roommate. So, but you know, Dallas is Dallas. I'll say it. I think as long as Jerry Jones is the owner, and I don't think they'll win another championship.
Really? Why? Okay. Why is that? That seems like one heck of an opinion.
I think he has way too much say in the Dallas organization. Yeah, he's the owner, and he thinks his way is the right way. And honestly, I don't ever see him winning with him as the owner, because you know this is kind of like it's like what season was it? Tony Romo was playing out of his mind. Defense was great, you know, and then we get into the playoffs, and you know they just lay an egg. I can't remember. I remember my uncle talking about it all the time, but I think Dallas is just Dallas. Everybody says it's their year. Their year. They look so good. Their defense is so good. You know, Dak Prescott, MVP, and then something's going to happen. It's just always how it is.
Yeah, they look pretty darn good right now. And there's several different iterations of the Dallas Cowboys that always look pretty darn good to me. You know, okay, Kellen Moore is going to be the guy. And then this year, okay, they don't have Kellen Moore. So now that's going to be the reason why and whatever it is. Dallas still doesn't control their own destiny to win the division, because the Eagles have more NFC teams to play, not even NFC East, but NFC teams to play, which is wild to me from the NFL scheduling. But I like the Cowboys a lot to play really well and play far. And I've been a Cowboys fan for, most of my life until I went to go live in LA, and I was basically a Cowboys fan. But now I'm a Chargers fan for life here, of course. So I'm not going to renege on that.
My roommate is he actually just went to LA this past weekend to go watch the Broncos LA game.
He could have gotten my season tickets off of me for probably a good deal. But yeah, I just, it's hard for me to think the Cowboys are going to do it, because it's kind of been this for so long. So like, until you do get to the Super Bowl, because you don't have to win the Super Bowl for me to be like, oh, okay, but you do have to get there. Like, and that's so, there's only 2 teams that do that every single year. And I know it's such a high bar to set, but because basically Dallas Cowboys have been having such high expectations for so many years, they are worth the most of any sports team in the entire world by far and away. And they play in the nicest stadium, I think, in the entire country. Yep. As just a stadium goes. If you take the whole campus into effect, I take SoFi Stadium every day of the week. But I just think that the Cowboys are so close to being, maybe they could be that team. But it's kind of that thing where, like, I'm choosing the Chiefs when in doubt, you know, to get to the Super Bowl out of the AFC, versus choosing the Cowboys to win the NFC just because they look really good right now and they beat the Eagles on Sunday night. Like, kind of, I'm not going to let the recency bias just really truly seep in. I will say, shout out to Brandon Aubrey, the kicker for the Dallas Cowboys. Got me 22 fantasy points this past week.
Wow.
USFL guy as well. That's where he was playing last 2 years before the Cowboys, so got to give him the shout out there. But yeah, 22 points. The rest of my team didn't score even double digits, even my quarterback. I had Justin Herbert in my defense, so didn't work out that well. With that being said, here, I think we're both picking the Niners to at least win the NFC. I'm probably picking the Ravens to win the AFC, though. What about you? Who do you got out of the AFC?
That's what I have is AFC was the Ravens. I think, I think they look good. I think NFL games are hard to say, like, oh, you barely beat a Rams team. They still have Matthew Stafford, MVP or NFL. A Super Bowl champ. You can't ever put NFL teams down because just talent wise. But I think the Ravens will pull it out in the AFC.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Sean McVay and that whole Rams, like I'm never say no to them, right? Like I think we're both on the same page there. Always kind of saying, hey, I think they always have a chance. But yeah, I think it's Ravens for right now. Hard to argue against them for sure. Then we've got kind of a couple teams here. I want to ask you about the AFC of who would you rather have right now, Chiefs or Dolphins? Editing this a little bit because basically we saw the Dolphins lose just pretty badly Monday night to a Titans team that was the biggest underdog the whole season to win a game. They're 13.5 points and they ended up winning. So I'll just ask the question a little bit quicker: Chiefs or Dolphins?
Dolphins.
Okay.
Yeah. So I am a big fan of Tyreek Hill. I know he comes from LSU. Mm-hmm. I know. That man is fast. I mean, it's fast. He's fun to watch. I think the Dolphins will be a completely different team without him on there. I like Waddle and everything on the Dolphins and everything, but Tyreek Hill just adds that little extra. I think the coach can play around with some plays and throw some weird stuff out there, and it works just because he just beats defenders so bad.
Yeah, I got to say, if healthy, if Tyreek's healthy, I'm taking the Dolphins today. And that's just a really weird thing for me to think about because the Chiefs in my mind have been the pinnacle of the AFC for so long. But if I literally look at it on paper, the Chiefs are one game up on the Denver Broncos in the division for the AFC West. That's a division where, granted, of course, I hope the Chargers were contending better. But like, besides taking my fandom out of it, I don't think the Broncos are that good. And so if you're one game up on the Broncos, who lost to the Dolphins by 50 points earlier this year, then are you that good? I mean, I really just want to ask like the Chiefs, like, okay, I'm not going to die you until I do see you fall. But right now, it's the first time where I'm going, what if the Chiefs just don't win this division? What if something happens? What if the Broncos, win it out or something weird? What if the Chiefs don't have home field advantage for the first time in Mahomes' career?
So I think you can make the parallel of, the Chiefs being like the Warriors. Good for so long, and it's weird for seeing them not, perform as they have. Travis Kelce's getting a little old. They don't have the receiving core they had in the past few years. And, Mahomes is just, I think riddled with injuries from the past years. I think is really catching up to them.
Yeah, I do too. I can ask you a fun question here. I know it's really easy to Google, but try to ask you real quick just to see who's older, Rob Gronkowski or Travis Kelce.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it's Travis.
It might be Travis but I know they're both 34. So it's kind of a trick question.
Yeah. I remember them talking about, Gronk's already retired, and like had so many stats compared to Travis and everything. And they were talking about it. I do remember something like this being said.
Yeah, it's a wild thing to think about, but that just brings it into perspective for me of, okay, wait a second. Maybe Kelce is getting old. I hadn't thought about going into the season, but now that we've seen the season play out, I'm like, okay, you know what? I think Kelce could be getting up there in age,
Yeah. So like they're saying, Gronk was getting old his last season. He looked slow and everything. And that was the one year he won with Brady in the Super Bowl. But they were saying, oh, he looks so much slower, looked the former of himself. But, Gronk's just is Gronk. And I think Travis is Travis. I think they'll both be special and they'll both be Hall of Fame players at the end of their, at the end of it all.
All right. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Well, kind of rounding up here on the NFL stuff. So right now, the Bears have the first overall pick in the draft if everything plays out the way it does, because the Carolina Panthers can't get out of their own way, and they traded the pick last year. So they're the worst team in the NFL, but they don't have their own pick, and the Bears do. So if you're the Bears, would you draft a quarterback and keep Justin Fields? Would you trade Justin Fields and draft a quarterback? What do you end up doing here, or do you just trade out of the pick and keep Justin Fields overall? What would you do if you're the Bears?
I'm trading Justin. I think his years, I think he's had a shot and everything. I think he's going to be great somewhere else. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a phenomenal quarterback. I just don't think he's the correct pick for the Bears. I think they trade him, get some weapons around, and I think they go for Caleb Williams if he goes for the draft.
Yeah, heck, if I'm the Steelers, I'm trying to sign Justin Fields tomorrow. Because right
Yeah,
now,
no,
right now, that the Steelers are one of those teams that somehow always finds a way to win games they shouldn't win, unless their quarterback is injured or kind of slower or whatever it may be. And Kenny Pickett doesn't look like to be the guy. Granted, he was drafted 17th overall, but if I'm the Bears, I'm with you. I do the exact same. I get a guy in a rookie contract, and also I get Caleb Williams, who has been touted as the best prospect we've seen in quite some time. You can't. I mean, it's kind of like okay, would you trade out of the first pick so you don't have Trevor Lawrence anymore? Well, in retrospect, what could you have gotten? Like, it's a conversation, but in the moment, it's no, of course not. You take Trevor Williams, and it's the same thing with me. You take, and Trevor Williams didn't even win a Heisman. You definitely are taking Caleb Williams, who won a Heisman, and has also battled back from some tough losses this year too. That's got to be worth something at the end of the day. And then very last NFL question here before we end this one out. Who's your pick for NFL MVP if the season ended today?
Tyreek Hill.
Okay.
Non-quarterback. I'm a sucker for skills position non-quarterback MVPs. I think we put too much on just stats of a quarterback, and not enough on what the skills are doing outside of just quarterback. Will we ever see another MVP that's not a quarterback? I think it's a long shot, but I would love to see Tyreek Hill MVP, or at least getting conversations about it.
I would too, because at some point, what is the MVP if it's only a quarterback award? The quarterback is the one who always touches the ball, is always the one who does everything. But then in the MLB, should the catcher be the MVP every year? Would be kind of the same line of thinking, because I know the pitcher changes every game, but the catcher's always catching. And to me, yes, the quarterback does deserve a lot of credit. This isn't like a negative Brock Purdy or a negative Jalen Hurts or a negative Dak Prescott, whatever. But this is when Tyreek Hill is not on the field, and we saw it this past Monday, it changes how the whole entire team plays. It changes how they function. And when Tyreek Hill is on the field, all of a sudden, the defense has to do 7 million different things crazy to try to keep up. And if the Dolphins can score 70 with him on the field and go off, but then they can't really keep up the same type of deal when he's off the field. And I did think earlier on in the season, oh, well, the Dolphins can score 70 against the Broncos with a backup quarterback and backup wide receivers, whatever. Then how is it Tyreek Hill or is it Mike McDaniels? Is it kind of the coaching philosophy, the coaching scheme? But as more and more time passes, it's like, no, Tyreek Hill's like a one of one. He can run so incredibly fast and track the ball in space that I have a hard time not saying Tyreek Hill, but I will say if it's not Tyreek Hill, I'd go ahead and choose Dak Prescott with the Cowboys just because he's playing out of his mind this year. And, guys who I didn't really know their names as household names beforehand, as Jake Ferguson, Noah Brown for the Cowboys, who I don't even know if he's still there at this point. But Brandon Cooks, is still putting up stats. You've just got a bunch of other Dallas Cowboys playmakers who are coming out of the woodworks as household names now, because basically the Cowboys, but also because Dak Prescott's getting the ball in their hands and making them lead offensively. And also it just does stand out to me a lot that like Dallas is able to play incredibly good offensively, even if their defense isn't able to keep up against like the Seahawks, for example.
Right.
With kind of being Sunday night, like, hey, he's not the Eagles, but the Eagles haven't looked dominant on offense in a while. So what was the deal there? Whereas the offense looked so good for the Cowboys for so long. All right, well, last question here. So you and I play pickup hoops together. Some nights here and there. Granted, as it gets colder outside, it gets a little bit harder to play some pickup hoops. Yeah. But with that being said, we had Jalen Williams, J-Dub, call himself out against that Warriors game and say, basically he went off. He was dub in that game. It's just D-U-B, dub. And I'll see if I can find the clip here to put it in and insert the audio right here. But in case I'm unable to do so, want to go and ask you here, what is your basketball or sport alter ego name? If you're not Jay.
Oh, it's Dr. J. The way I'm out there being surgical.
Okay.
Placing, that's what they call me, old Dr. J. It's not the old 70s, 76er style. It's more like I'm the doctor out there. I know where things go. I know how to, yeah, you're come in,
Yeah, I'd say the doctor part of it. Granted, I don't know the Dr. J for Julius Erving. I don't know where that came from, but I would say doctor for you would be, I could see that. Much more of the, okay, yeah, you're slicing and dicing, you're performing a surgery out there on the court, and then you're also bandaging up at the end, getting everyone back out there for the next play or whatever, because you're figuring out what happened wrong. So, no, I love that one. My nickname, at least at some point, we've had just me using my middle name as Glenn at some point, but that's just really just when I'm mad and want to like tear someone's shoulder off. But usually it's been Hoodie Cal, just when I'm wearing a hoodie, playing basketball. Definitely was called Hoodie Cal a lot more when I was a little bit bigger, but either way, it's coming. You step into that zone and all of a sudden you're playing like, all right, just kind of the training wheels are off, fully stretched, kind of warm, kind of loose before you start having that, at least I think I can say for both of us, just because we're playing enough now where I know where, basically playing like that for a little bit, but not a long time, kind of that steep drop off there, at least for me, where I'm hitting a couple threes and all of a sudden, okay, I airballed one, probably going to stop, hold myself back a little bit from shooting all those and doing some odd stuff. So, nah, that's great though. I love Dr. J. We'll have to break it out here when we play again soon. Hopefully this Oklahoma weather though can stay in the 40s at least or so in December. Yeah, I still think it'll get colder before it gets warmer. We haven't had like a night where basketball's been called off due to being too cold yet, and I'm not gonna wait until that happens. But maybe we can go play in the indoors here before too long too. Find a spot. So. Anyways, with all that being said, Jay, as always, thanks so much for joining.
Yep, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, thanks for joining the latest episode of the CGA Tour podcast. As always, please follow at the CGA Tour on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, now as well as TikTok. So try to get you on every single platform here for the CGA Tour, and we'll catch you guys again soon.